This episode is powered by Mod 42. Their modular approach represents the future of data center infrastructure. By combining innovation, design with cutting-edge technology, they deliver scalable, efficient, and sustainable solutions that transforms how businesses deploy and manage their computing resources. Welcome to Beyond the Megawatt. I'm Valerie Crafton, Risk and Site Strategist. I'm joined by my co-host, Mara Irvin, reuse expert and real estate visionary. Together, we are the Data Center Darlings. We're spotlighting the voices and ideas powering digital infrastructure's future. Let's dive in and go beyond the megawatt. Welcome to Beyond the Megawatt, and we're here today with George Rockett. And George, we're just going to jump right in here. We're going to talk about your human story first. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got into the industry, and yeah, go ahead and take that.
Oh, well, anyway, thanks for having me on the podcast today. I'm looking forward to this. If our little prep before has anything to do with the conversation we're going to have now, it's going to be good fun, everyone. So, I'm George. I'm mostly known for Data Center Dynamics, a business I co-founded in 1998. So a long time ago. And I got there by accident. I was a salesperson. I was a history major and a modern languages major. And in the UK, we have this system where unless you're going to be a doctor and engineer, you don't really need to know or study what you're going to do later on in life. I'm not sure how good a system it is, but I left and I didn't know what to do, and I became a salesperson. I guess I was always a salesperson. I went into a sales job that I was good at, and I believed I could sell anything. And I remember my business partner at the time, Dan Scarborough, said, "I've come across this thing. It's just like advertising space. It's called colo space. It's like nothing. It's a blank canvas. You sell it to somebody and they do what they want with this space." I thought that's just like an advertising page. Amazing. Let's do it. We can rock this. And it really wasn't as easy as that, because nobody knew what colo was and nobody knew what a data center was. And we were running out of ideas. And then a light bulb moment was, whoa, we've been seeing adverts for years. Let's publish. Let's do a magazine. And it was kind of like the first magazine about this back in the day. It was called Co-Location Network Europe. And then it grew from there because the industry was tiny and we were tiny. And we just organically grew and started learning what the industry needs and kind of like learning to deliver that. And that is the story
Of how you entered into the industry, which is actually a beautiful story, because I love hearing that coming from someone who's so seasoned in the industry, because it really shows yet again how so many of us ended up in the industry. I was pretty intentional, but I would say I'm pretty rare. Most people fell into it. Somehow someone kind of you transitioned into it. You weren't sort of determined to go into sort of high tech. For me, it was a focus on high tech construction. So industrial technology, basically construction management for high tech.
We were
so
just
that's what I did.
Yeah, we were just talking about this the other day. I think that's why we have such a wild and entertaining industry, is because a lot of people that stumbled into this, I think we bring our passions with us, and we try to bring that with us in what we do. So that's why I like to write. That's why we're on this podcast. I was going to be a journalist, by the way, George. And I ended up in sales too. So
I never got there, Mara. You don't want to read what I write.
There you go. Does history ever show up in your everyday, or George?
I don't know, over time, yeah, I think it has, and language has, because we traveled the world doing this. So understanding cultural nuance has been important to what we've done. At one point, we're in 60 countries of the world and everything's slightly different. Yeah, I think history, or writing about history, is like looking at complex, a complexity and trying to write about it. And I think that's always been my job here. There's so much going on in the industry, trying to make sure that we can represent it in a way that can be easily consumed by people. So yeah, there is a link. After all.
And AI is rewriting history now. So there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And when you talk about people coming in different places, I think what unifies the people is this thirst for the new, right? When you go into an industry that's established, it's like, well, we know what we're going to get. Everyone here has kind of like, at whatever point they've come in, there's always been an issue of scale in front of them or something different. It's so rapidly moving. You've got to be a certain type of person to kind of like get in there, right? It's that everybody, whether it was in 1998 or whether it's 2010 or whether it's 2020, had to come into the fast lane. If they're transitioning from an industry, if they were new in, because it's so lightning fast, right?
It's so lightning fast. And it's funny to listen to people. Oh, I've built projects of this size before, but you haven't built a project of this complex and this fast before. And not to mention the technology that goes with it and how fast that has evolved over the years and being able to keep up with it simultaneously. It's just a very different market for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So I love that you've talked about, you've brought in the history, you've culture is a huge piece of what we do, because as we've built data centers around the world, being able to understand the cultural nuances of building something new and how that gets modified into those different areas, that's a big deal. So I completely believe in that. And I'm such a data analytic nerd that history and the history of the projects and how we can create repeatability. I've always gravitated toward that. Now let's transition into, let's see if I can say that word, transition into this big event that's coming up. And we're very excited about it. How did this event come to be? And the bigger question is it YOTTA or YOTTA?
Nobody can say the name, so we're just going to go for the rest of the podcast saying, and this big event, what about it? Okay, I say YOTTA. I also say water. I speak more like Harry Potter. You guys say YOTTA, and you say water, and you say Harry Potter. So kind of like, it's cool. You can say it how you want. It comes from the word yottabyte or yottabyte.
Oh.
Yotta, right? So a yottabyte is 1,000 zettabytes, which is 1,000 exabytes, which is 1,000, I forget as it goes down.
How many years are we away from a yottabyte?
Well, this is the real problem, right? I thought we're miles away from it. Last year, when we began this event, I said somewhere in the mid-1930s, we're going to hit the yottabyte era. It looks like we might hit it in the next couple of years. And the next name is awful. So the International Metric Committee that gives names to things said that one past a YOTTA is a RONA. Can you imagine an event? Vegas, come to RONA. Vegas, rubbish. And what we wanted was, we wanted Bronto, like a brontosaurus. Can you imagine that? An amazing logo, wouldn't it? Big dinosaur, and then Bronto, massive data or something like that. But we've got YOTTA, and it'll be a while till we get to 1,000 yottabytes. I think we're protected for a decade. But that's where the name came from. You can say it how you want.
Tomato, tomato, potato, patata, yada, yoda, yada.
Well, take us back, George, because I've been a part of the DCD events for a while, but you had a vision. You wanted to bring something a little different to the industry. You saw a need. Can you kind of walk us through how that came about and your vision for YOTTA?
Yeah. So nicely said. You nailed it there. That was like the perfect American rendition of the word. It's like, So I've been with Data Center Dynamics. I still am for many years. And data center is a tribe. It's a tribe of people. And I use that word because it's linguistic. We use the same language. We feel comfortable with each other. You know what you need to learn to get ahead. But what happens is when you bring people from outside the tribe in, which I've been trying to do for years, onto a stage, people in the audience, often their eyes glaze over and you can hear them thinking, what does this person know about megawatts? What do they know about building data centers? What's this got to do with what I'm doing? And I'm like, oh God, it's a network person. You know that data centers are connected. Oh, this is an IT person. You know that there are servers in racks, and that's kind of like IT, right? It sounds silly, but the idea is you get into a silo you have your own language. And what often happens is that gets so tight, you're so tight with each other that people from outside find it difficult to come in. But what they do is they go to their own show. So you've got all these silos of people with their own shows, talking about problems in their own way and solving challenges themselves. And that's okay when the challenge is an x86 chip that's been developed over many years and everybody knows it. That's fine when every standards organization in the world has already translated what you need to know about that technology for your silo. But that is not what's happening right now. So I wanted, and I couldn't get those people to come to DCD because they wanted to go to their own tribe. So we needed to spin up a platform I call PAN for all of digital infrastructure, a tent that everybody could come into. Because my hypothesis is that we are in the jet engine moment for digital infrastructure. So I got this story, if you'll humor me for a minute. You're flying the first Airbus A380, the biggest passenger plane in the world, 700 and something seats, to the first airline will take France. You're going to Charles de Gaulle Airport, and an hour out you say, hey, you know, the Airbus A380 number one's coming in an hour. Have you made all the preparations? We need a longer runway, we need a strengthening, and we need the passenger ingress and egress routes in a terminal. And they go, no, I've never done anything. No, we have not got that, they say. And the pilot goes, oh no, I'm going to run out of fuel and this airplane's going to crash. Now that's impossible to happen in aviation because they got vertically integrated. But why they got vertically integrated was when the jet engine came along, right? So they had propeller engines from the Wright brothers through 2 world wars, all the way through to the mid 60s. And a pretty good aeronautical engineer could stick any engine on any wing, but it was amazing. The only problem was you had a maximum payload and a maximum distance you could go within that matrix. That's starting to sound familiar, this, isn't it? And then somebody comes along with a jet and they say, it changes everything. You've got to design the whole aeroplane. Every government of the world says, we want to have a jet engine and we want to have an airport that can land them because that's the next economy. That's globalization. So suddenly they start working with the public. They start getting the funds, the billions needed to build Charles de Gaulle, Heathrow, JFK, LAX, and they get the financial instruments necessary for people to pay for entire fleets because nobody could do it on their own. And that's a jet engine moment. And that's what enables international air travel to happen and for people to come around the table and say, right, we need an airplane that's capable of going further. Rolls-Royce will then build an engine that takes them 10 years, and Gate Gourmet will now build a factory with 700 hot dog machines or whatever they need to feed all these people, and everybody's happy and in time. In our industry, we started creating engines, accelerators, GPU being the most known one. And these are literally jet engines, but nobody at the beginning told anybody what the wings were, what the future was. Nobody's come together to say what types of airports these need to run on. And at the same time, they're starting to say, hey, the propeller's gone. Well, we want to land these passenger jets in old airports and things. And we're in the jet engine moment. And it's just enormous change and upheaval. And YOTTA is meant to be a platform to discuss this change that we're in at the moment. Long story, right? But there you go.
I love it. I love it. And so this is your third year?
This is just going to be the second year.
Oh, well, there we go.
Crazy.
So walk us through what you saw last year, and did this come to life? This was your vision, is that you would bring these different technologies together. We're building the data center from the chip out. Let's make everything important, right? So can you kind of give us, are you seeing that happen?
So I kind of like the idea for the event. Really, the seed for that was sown before the whole Gen AI thing in March 2023. So it's kind of like funny that happened along the way. The idea was to get the compute people and everybody in the room, and the world went mad. And the more I wanted to get away from data centers, the more it pulls you back in. And the story got bigger and bigger. And in year one, I think, we managed to get some compute people talking to data center people. I think that's important. When I say talking, acknowledging them. We had Renee J. James, the ex-president of Intel, speaking on the first day. She's now the founder and the CEO of Ampere Computing. And she literally spoke to the audience. She said, I recognize all of you. Thank you for the hard work that you're doing. What you do is important. And I'd never really heard that before because there's an abstraction layer.
Yep.
Who cares who puts this together? They're in another room. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Everybody needs to work together because you're now building technologies that you want scaled in a way, and you need to talk. So that worked. And then the energy community flooded through the door, and they hadn't been people that necessarily had been at DCD. Some had been, but there were loads last year. So that was kind of like the big change that I saw happen. And it was a first year event. We had 1,650 people. We had 132 CEOs. Nearly a third of the audience was C-level. So it pitching this conversation pulled in a senior audience. I said it had to be systems thinkers, and it pulled in senior people. And that's been our foundation for this year.
This episode is brought to you by BCS Switchgear, where power meets precision. From obsolete breakers to the new 15 to 34.5 kV switchgear and low break switches, BCS delivers fast answers and custom engineered solutions that keep mission critical systems online. So that's how we evolved from where it was last year and how that vision has sort of come together this year. And more than ever, one of the things that I see and I'm hearing a lot about is everyone needs to come together, because frankly, it's no longer one of those situations where we can do it alone. There's a lot more JV happening than ever before, a lot more partnerships versus competitive bid. And that's really who I think is going to win the game. What do you think about that?
I think it's really interesting when you talk about the partnerships and the competitive landscape, because I think all of that's changing. That's what I'm seeing this year with who's coming. I call it Russian dolls. So, you see the big Russian doll on the outside and it's got a name on it, and then you start opening up and you're opening up. An example, OpenAI. We've got lots of OpenAI people speaking this year. It's really cool. Companies that want to use the platform to tell the world what they need. I think it's just a really cool way of using an event. And we've got their head of data centers, we've got their head of infrastructure, we've got one of their finance people, we've got one of their model IT capacity managers, and they're there. And we all know who Open Compute is, and we all know about Project Stargate. And we all know that OpenAI was using Microsoft at the beginning. That was the deal. It was like, we've got this incredible technology. You can build lots of data centers really quickly. And then suddenly, Oracle's building data centers. And then suddenly it's Crusoe building them for Oracle. And then Oracle's got a deal with Google to build for OpenAI. And it's like, you need many people now to do this, right? Because their balance sheets are different. How they do things is different. And it's like quite phenomenal. When I look this year, I've got Cully Kavanagh speaking, who's one of the founders of Crusoe, that are doing these multi-gigawatt sites. The Abilene site for OpenAI, they've just launched a site in Wyoming. I've got Dan Roberts, the CEO of Iris Energy speaking. He's from Australia. He was the head of digital infrastructure for Macquarie, and he started building data centers that could do Bitcoin mining and AI. We've got Bitwolf that are crypto pivotters. There's so many. And if I think of the people that are coming to the event, names that I didn't know before, Mass Compute, Bitfarms, the list goes on and on and on. There's a whole new world. I don't think everybody knows about this world. And it's an important world, because these people know how to do energy. That's how they started, was an energy play. And if I go back 5 or 6 years in data center, every time I was at a conference, I'd say, hey, you ever going to be in the energy game? And everyone go, ha, 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 no, not I. That's a silly thing to think. We're just about data centers. And you'd be there going, am I reading something different here? I think that's an interesting part. Everything's about energy, right?
Yeah, to circle back on the partnerships too, I think Wade Vinson's the one that said nobody's really a competitor anymore, right? We all have to roll up our sleeves and work together. And I think it was DCD that put out an article last year that 2024 was like the year of JVs. I mean, I don't know, 50, 70 billion dollars in joint ventures. And every time I turn around, you see competitors going in together like, hey, we can't really resource this on ourselves, either by capital or just the delivery team to execute. So we're seeing a lot of that. But to your point, we have seen a convergence. So from the compute side to you, I would say that bringing together these voices. And then the other point you made about the senior leadership, they're now hearing, they're in these sessions, they're starting to hear, hey, these are problems that we have to solve together. And it gets them their attention, right? And they are now a stakeholder and making sure that we can kind of see this thing through.
Yeah. And so we've got all of that competitive environment changing. And I think it's really important what you said, the scale's enormous. That always kind of like vibes into the jet engine moment. It's like, this is enormous. We can't, when you look at the numbers, we talk about, oh, this one could be $1 trillion industry. Well, look at the earnings reports yesterday. I think they all buddied up, the hyperscalers, the four of them said, oh, it's 400 billion for next year. And the market's okay with it. And that's a slice of it now, right? That's not everything. I read a great short blog from our friend Dan Golding, and it was, oh, the end of hyperscale is here. And every time I said to somebody, read it, they go, what do they mean? And he said, yeah, there's probably about 30 companies that are doing this now. And the market was always just reporting what these people were doing. So you've got all of that going on, and that's fueled by AI, right? And then we find ourselves in the crosshairs, maybe the crosshairs isn't the right word, but as a national security thing, top on the list, data centers and energy. You've got the America's AI plan that came out the other week and took the gloves off with regards to energy. You've got, so on top of this, so much is going on, so much to deal with, and it's all about growth. It's an amazing time, an absolutely amazing time to be in this industry.
I love it. So what can we expect different for this year? Is there anything that's evolved from last year that you're adding to the event, and what can we expect?
Scale. Outperforming Moore's Law. That's my new line this week. Yeah. So we're going to have double the number of people there. We'll have over 3,000 people on track to have there. Nearly double the number of exhibitors, much more diverse technology, diverse speakers from different parts of the ecosystem. So that's one thing. It's going to be a broader discussion, like we needed broader, but it's going to be there because I think it's in the cracks that the answers live. We've got, if we were to go through the event, it's a 3-day event. Day one is a light day, but we've got a short program on liquid cooling. The iMasons have got their Climate Accord event going on, and in the afternoon we go to the Innovate Arena, which was great fun. That's our take on the Shark Tank. So we've got about 20 companies we found over the last 6 months. They're doing something cool. Most of them are small. They're doing something cool. They're attacking one of the challenges of the industry in a different way. And we've got judges there and point scoring. And last year, people loved it. They said, I've never seen so many different things in one room. And we've got some parties, and then we got 2 days of conference and the big expo. The conference has been kicked off with a guy called Dylan Patel. I didn't know who Dylan Patel was. I didn't know who this young upstart was until I listened to 5 hours of him on the Lex Friedman interview. And I went, wow, we need this person at the event. So Dylan Patel is the person that the market looks to understand what's going on in silicon with the chips, with the GPUs. So we thought, let's get somebody from outside. We've got Alex Bouzaris, the CEO of DDN, one of the big storage players now talking on that day. Pradeep Vincent from Oracle and the guys from OpenAI. So there's going to be a whole story around that. And yeah, we just got a lot of track content going on. But this year, in year one, what we had to do to convince the people that we were giving them something that they could consume was we had to do tracks which were like, oh, this is about networks. Oh, this track, this is about, I can't even remember them now. This is about the cloud. It said what it did on the tin. This year, we wanted to go to more synergistic problem solving. So we have a track called densification, and data center people immediately go to cooling. There's power on there. There's port. There's network densification. There's urban densification because it's a process. When we go to efficiency, we're looking at it from every element of the stack. as well. We're looking at risk differently. So we're trying to get people into rooms that they wouldn't usually go into, and then confront them with something that they've not heard before. That's the name of the game.
Well, that's how we get us outside of our constructions, because that's what we're seeing, right? With all the design changes, whatever we're changing with our pathways and the bus duct, there's implications of that in other trades and other technologies. And we need to do it now so that we're not pushing our construction schedules. But that's the world Valerie lives in too.
I was going to say, that's one of the number one risks that I always identify is when we're making those downstream decisions, and no one's really thinking about how that's impacting your operations and your maintenance, and being able to connect those dots from end to end is so vital. But very few people have that big picture view, mostly because they don't know what they don't know, and they haven't worn multiple hats that allow them to easily connect those dots. So I love, George, that you're bringing all those folks into the room and really creating that organic conversation, because back to the partnership conversation, we have to come together and think about this, because otherwise, if we don't, we're all standing at the brink of first of a kind, and we're going to be relearning our lessons over and over and over, and that's not going to get us anywhere. We need to be constantly in an innovative mindset and outside of a firefighting mindset.
Yes, true to say. I use the word tribes. What we put around the tribe is a silo. We put walls and barriers around them because we say, just look down there and do that. In my organization, I understand how it all works together. I just need you to solve the cooling. And it would be like, yeah, but there's an issue over there. It's not our issue. Solve for this.
Yeah.
And it's easy to put a silo around people. But I also think education siloizes the conversation, right? I think we're coming to an age of systems thinkers and polymaths, and I think I talk to more and more people that have really diverse interests. They go, oh, I'm a mechanical engineer, but I've been doing this and I like this, and you can see it in them. And I'm getting feedback. I used to speak with a lot of design engineers, especially younger design engineers. I go, hey, how are you enjoying the job? And they'd be going 5, 6, 3, 4 years ago, 2, 3 years ago. It's really boring. We get given reference architectures from the hyperscalers, and we have to go and implement them in this build-to-suit company. And there's not a lot that we can do around it. We can get better at it. Now, suddenly, the last 2 years, it's kind of like the Wild West in a good way. We've got to be really innovative. People are asking us things that nobody in the room has ever answered before. So it's not like I can look up to somebody and go, well, you've been here before. What did you do? And I think that's cool. It needs to be managed properly, right? Because the risk has got bigger. But engineers are innovative people.
Yeah. The risk has gotten bigger. Everything's gotten more complex. And so back to your history buff thing that you brought up in the very beginning, tracking that history and making sure that it's in a place that we can quickly learn for the project coming behind us immediately will be a key to creating that foundation of continuous improvement live while you're in the moment is going to be really important, I think. So as we start to wrap up here and we come to an end, what would you tell the audience if they're on the fence about thinking about attending this event? They've got other events on the schedule. Why should they come?
Why should they come? Because there's going to be something for everybody, and this really is moving the dial, this event. All right, everything's been put into it, and when you bring the diverse people together, there's an energy that happens there that I can't even tell you what that energy is going to be, right? Because I know the energy of new people meeting new people, and I've seen the energy of old people meeting old people. And I mean old geriatric people. I just mean people that hang out all the time. They meet each other, and you get lowish energy. When you know that two worlds are meeting, it's kind of like a nuclear reaction, right? So I say we should call it's going to be a fusion that's going on here, right? I can't wait to see these people from the new world, I call them the crypto pivoters, but maybe that's bad, when they meet a room full of suppliers that some of them won't have ever met before because they've been doing things in other ways. And the suppliers are going to meet them and go, wow, they're going to be saying, I met new people today. There's going to be engineers that are going, I heard of new ways of doing things today. There's going to be people listening to the IT side of the house, the network side of the house. So that's why I would go, because we need to talk about the future, not next week. And that's what we've tried to curate at this event. It's about a further future than we usually talk about.
And so you said,
and I'll be there as well.
And of course you'll be there. I mean, who wouldn't want to meet you in person?
Party by the pool, and it's Las Vegas, and who wouldn't want to go? And there's great food.
And to plug, we're going to do a live podcast together with a live audience at the event. So we'll go ahead and put that plug in there. Now, you said something earlier in the conversation. There was a moment where you're standing there 5 years ago, and people were saying, why would I get into the energy business? Is there anything that we're standing at today that people are like, well, why would I get into that business? Forecast the future.
I think the money is the thing. In the jet engine moment, when you need somebody to pay for the fleet of airplanes, they need a different type of security, right? So we're coming out, I'll get told off for this, won't I, by the world. We're coming out, data center started with venture capital. It was a new venture. Nobody knew it. It was like, whoa, okay, I'll put some money in here. We'll see what comes back. Then it became private equity, which was more normalized. Then it starts moving up into kind of like this very specific digital infrastructure focused private equity. And then suddenly it's infrastructure investing. So you've got companies that have got an energy arm and they've got a digital infrastructure arm. But they're both geared completely differently. This one needs to be sold in a few years' time. It needs to make a load of money. Oh, this one, we've already worked out how it lasts for many, many years. And we're investing over a 20-year horizon. So we're going through this kind of like battle. So I think that the whole idea of the grid needing the data center is important, right? Investors needing more security, and as it normalizes and the returns come down, they need to be investing into different types of infrastructures. So I think all of this is coming together and forcing this energy discussion, right? It's out of people's hands. I mean, I remember some years ago talking with somebody, I can't remember his name. Oh, it's Bill. And he was at Generate Capital, Bill Bubenechek, and he was saying, oh, I can't get renewable energy deals across the line for data center operators. I've got lots of money to build microgrids. But when I add a crypto mine into it, they fly off the shelves. I said, why is that? I said, well, it's a load of last resort in the crypto mining. So they can turn it off when the energy price is high. So suddenly the investor has got some money to arbitrage and make on top of just what's being paid back. And you can't do that with a data center. And here we are, fast forward, where, oh, well, large language models, apparently when we build them, you can do that. And then crypto's coming. Suddenly we've got new workloads and new things that makes this more possible, and the government understanding it more. We are energy. I've got loads of scientists at the event this year. I've pulled them from Europe, from the US, to challenge people on the realities of megawatt racks and things like that. And they will all say at the end of the day, this is just the conversion of an electron into this and blah, 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 blah.
I think that's fantastic. Well, we're very excited about this event. We're excited about being a media partner at this event. We have our live event sponsor, Mod 42, who's also a sponsor of the event, who's also going to be at the Shark Tank as well, presenting his Mod 42 modular data centers. I'm so excited about being there. This will be my first event, and thank you so much, George, for being a part of it. We also have to say thank you to our title sponsor, BCS Switchgear, who helps us keep our mic on. So thank you. And Mara, my co-host, too.
Yes.
We couldn't
pleasure. I was super excited about having some time with George. So this has been great. Thanks for sharing your vision, and excited for year 2, seeing what's next.
Yeah. And if you haven't gone and registered yet, it's not too late.
Yeah, we'll have, if you're listening in, please go in and look at the description. We'll have the handles for the registration for the conference. And if you have any questions about why you should be there, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your support. We'll be speaking again very soon anyway with our good friend Amy. So yeah, have a great weekend. Thank you very much for your time. I love the conversation.